if you try to render this scene as a whole by basically just render it as one image, this is not an ideal solution because you won't be able later on, for example, to adjust the color of the sky on its own, maybe adjust the intensity of the fog, maybe adjust the intensity or the color actually of those dunes. You won't be able to do such thing. And that's why it is kind of important to break this scene into layers, which will basically allow us later on to composite and change some settings in each element on its own. I might want the sky to be on its own layer. So what I'm gonna do is basically let's just make this way bigger, and this view layer I will change the sky. I will just click on enter, and on this layer I only want to see the sky. So let's move our mountains, all of our mountains, by selecting them, hit M in new collection and just call them mountains. We're basically just organizing all of those elements we have right here. So this is our mountains and also the background elements. Let's just select all of them, hit M, and let's new collection and just call them dunes and hit OK. Both the dunes and the mountain are both our background elements. So I will create a new collection, and let's just call it background elements and basically move the dune and the mountain inside it. So we have right now a collection that is meant for the background elements. Let's create a new collection and let's call it sky. And I will move this one, which is the sky, I will move it basically inside the sky collection. I might also rename it to sky. I will take my fog element on particles and let's select both of them, hit M, new collection, and let's just call them fog and hit OK. And the last thing, new collection, and let's call it desert and move the desert element inside it. And maybe also let's just change the name of this collection to scene. So right now we do have multiple collection for each element of the scene. This layer is called sky. So I need to disable all the other collection except the sky. One thing I just want to mention that in case you don't have this checkbox right close to the name of the collection, you will have here plenty of options that you can show. So in my case, make sure to check this select box. Also, maybe you want to check this, which is like cold hold out. Make sure also to check it because we will be using it later. So I will disable desert, I will disable fog, I will disable the background elements, and I will only have the sky visible. I will duplicate this layer and just choose new, and let's call it background elements. And it is kind of self-explanatory. We will only have the background elements in this layer, so make sure to deselect all the objects that you don't need. So yeah, we only see the background elements right here. So we're good to go. Let's click on this button new, and let's call this a desert. And we only need to see the desert right here. So make sure to disable fog, disable sky, and disable background elements. So we only can see the sky. Lastly but not least, let's just do new, and I will call this dust. Hit enter, and I only want to see the fog. So I will disable desert, disable sky, disable background elements, and we only can see the dust elements. One important thing right now is that I might want to clip the desert element from this layer, because if you think about it in a realistic way, the desert will probably be carving some parts right here because that's the shape of the dunes. So I don't want this dust or fog to be visible right here. The easiest way to do that is basically by enabling an option right here, which is called holdout. So if I click on it and if I disable the desert layer, so I will see it, and you check this option, which is holdout, if you click on it, Blender will basically hide some parts of the fog element that are supposed to be covered or let's say hidden. So I will just keep it like that for now. Right now, let's just talk a little bit about how we're gonna render this scene. I'm not gonna break down our render settings in this video. I will keep it on its own video, which is the next video. But there are a couple of options that we might need to check before we render our scene. So I will move this editor a little bit up, something like this. And right here, I will go basically to render passes and make sure of all the settings, make sure to check denoising data. This way we will be able to use more data to denoise our renders. Here's how we will render the scene. We want For example, the sky renders or the sky images to be on their own folder. We want the background elements images or renders to be on their own folder. Same for the desert, same for the dust elements. And one important thing, make sure to check denoising data for each and every single layer. The sky, we check denoising data. Background elements, check denoising data. Desert, check denoising data. And our final layer, which is basically dust, make sure to check denoising data. So after checking this option, make sure to go to your compositor and select use nodes. And that's where the magic happens. And it is actually where we will use different nodes to tell Blender where to save each render. So let's just move this composite right here. I might hit Control and the right mouse button to cut this link. And I will go Shift A and select File Output, which is the node that we will be used for rendering. And I might make it a little bit bigger, something like this. If you focus a little bit on this render layer node, it will tell you which layer Blender will render. Right here I have sky, so this render layer, it is responsible for rendering the sky. I will link the image to the image, and as I mentioned before, we checked the denoising data property, so we will need to add a denoising data, or actually denoise, and put it right here. And just link the denoising normal with the normal and the denoising albedo with the albedo. And this node right now is ready for rendering. The only thing that I'm gonna do is make sure to select your file output, click on N, and you will have here this small menu. If you go under properties, you will have here an option called base path, and this option will tell Blender where to save this render. We want to save this sky to its own unique folder. So I will go here and I will go to my resources, maybe a little bit up, and I will create a folder and I will call it renders. And inside it, I will hit accept. And inside here, you will have an option called file subpath, which Blender will create a folder inside that render folder that we created that will contain our render. So I will just rename it to, for example, sky, and hit enter. And this right now is our sky layer. The only thing right now that we still need to do is to duplicate all of this setup and adjust it for each layer. So I will go select all of them, hit Shift D, move it maybe right here, and just change the render layer, for example, from sky to background elements, and go right here. Make sure to keep it at renders, hit accept, and right here, let's just change it to background elements, and hit enter. Let's duplicate it again, Shift D, move it right here. I will choose right now the render layers, which is desert. Go right here, make sure it is inside the renders, and I will change this to desert. And finally, I will duplicate it one last time, Shift D, put it right here. It is the same path, so we're good to go. And change this to dust, and let's call it dust. Hit N again, and if you want to maximize your editor, hit Control Space Bar, and we have this. Another thing that I forgot to mention, make sure after you created your whole node setup for the rendering layers, make sure to select one of your file output nodes, hit N to open the side tab, and here make sure to check the base path, make sure it is the path that we want, and also really important, make sure to check the file format. Make sure to put it as PNG and check RGBA. That's crucial. We want to render the RGB, our color channels, and also the alpha channel, which means that our images after rendering will contain the transparency data that are basically crucial for compositing. For the color depth, keep it at 8, we don't need it. And for the compression, make sure it is 0%. Please guys, change all of those settings for all the different file outputs. It is crucial. And that's basically it for how to prepare your scene for rendering. So without any further ado, see you in the next video.